So today we are left with the last topic of chapter People as Resource. So everyone open page number 26 of your eco book, okay, NCRT. Now there is a story of a village on page number 26. There was a village inhabited by several families. Each family produced enough to feed its members. Each family met its needs by the members making their own clothes and teaching their own children. One of the families decided to send one of its sons to an agriculture college. The boy got his admission in the nearby College of Agriculture. After some time, he became qualified in agro engineering and came back to the village. Here I just want to tell you that by obtaining this degree, this child has got the skilled qualification. Okay, what he has done? He has done agro engineering. He proved to be so creative that he could design an improved type of plow which increased the yield of wheat. So see, by taking such skilled qualification, this boy has helped the village, his village, in increasing the production of wheat, because he is now an engineer, so he has developed a new technique of plowing. Thus, a new job of agro engineer was created and filled in the village. The family in the village sold the surplus in a nearby neighboring village. They earned good profit because they now are yielding, they are having better yield than the previous time. So they are saving some amount of wheat for their own use, and the surplus means extra, they are selling in the neighboring village and they are earning good profit, which they shared among themselves. Inspired by his success, all the families after some time held a meeting in the village. They all wanted to have a better future for their children too. They requested the panchayat to open a school in the village. So by seeing the progress of that boy, they all got motivated and they requested panchayat to have a school in the village. They assured the panchayat that they would all send their children to school. The panchayat, with the help of government, opened a school. A teacher was recruited from a nearby town. All the children of this village started going to school. After some time, one of the families gave training to his daughter in tailoring. Okay, because you know tailoring is also a vocational qualification which will help this girl to earn more. She started stitching clothes for all the families of the village, for everyone now wanted to buy and wear well tailored clothes. Thus, another new job, that of a tailor, was created. This had another positive effect. The time of the farmers in going far for buying clothes was saved, because in their own village a good tailor is there. Now they all were buying their clothes from her only. So this is they were helped by each other. The girl was earning and the village people, they could save their time for going out and buying the clothes. As the farmers spent more time in the field, the yield of the farms went up, because now farmers, they are saving time. They need not to go out of the village to buy things. They are getting everything in their own village, so they can give more time to their farms, and this is how their income rose up. This was the beginning of prosperity. You see, this is how each and every person of the village became rich. The farmers had more than what they could consume. Now they could sell what they produced to others who came to their village markets. You see, they have started their own production. Okay, so in this way this village became rich. Over time, this village, which formerly had no job opportunities in the beginning, had many like teacher, tailor, agro engineer and many more. So see, now this village has skilled people. Okay, they need not to go here and there because everything was there in their own village. This was the story of a simple village where the rising level of human capital enabled. So the teacher, tailor, agro engineer, they are the example of human capital. They are the example of human resource because they are benefiting the society. Are you getting what is the actual meaning of human resource? So in this way, this village has set an example of self-earning. Okay, enable it to evolve into a place rich with complex and modern economic activities. So this whole story has taught us that how a normal person can become a human resource. So this finishes our chapter. Let's move on to the question answer. So children, these questions they are 15. So I'll be sending you answers of all these questions. Okay, if any question is not understood to you, you can ask me. Okay, few of the questions I'm discussing with you. If the time will be there, I'll discuss all. Okay, for question number 1, what do you understand by people as a resource? So I think you have understood this answer with the, so I hope by many stories now you have understood what is people as resource mean. People as resource is a way of referring to a country's working people in terms of their existing productive skills and abilities. Okay, so you can write this answer like this. Question number 2. How is human resource different from other resources like land and physical capital? So you can make column, and in one column you can write human resource, the other column you can write land and physical capital resource. Now human resources, it is an active factor of production. Yes, it is an active factor of production. Land and physical capital, they are passive. Second point you can write under human, it is a primary factor of production because human resource can make use of land and capital, whereas land and capital are secondary to human resource. This is question number 2. Now question number 3, what is the role of education in human capital formation? You know, education is one of the most important factor of economic and social development, isn't it? Because if a person become educated, he can earn more, and this is going to develop our society. So education is the key factor of economic and social development. Second point you can write, it helps in increasing the mental horizon. You know, our mental ability grows when we are educated. Okay, so it increases our mental horizon. Third, it helps in the development of science and technology. Fourth, it encourages economic development. It also increases the efficiency of the worker. So this much for question number 3. Question number 4, what is the role of health in human capital formation? You all know, if a person is healthy, then every organization want to keep that person in the organization, isn't it? So health is very, very important for human capital. Okay, if the person is healthy, he can bring economic growth, and economic growth will be achieved at faster rate. If you are healthy, you can work more. Okay, if you are healthy, you can work for more number of hours and you can bring more wealth, or you can bring more capital for the society as well as for yourself. Question number 5, What part does health play in the individual's working life? Health, again this is just related to question number 4 only. Health is an important aspect of individual's life. It involves physical, mental and economic as well as social well-being of an individual. So, if a person is physically fit, mentally fit, economically fit and is like good in behavior with where the person lives, that is in the society, then the person is considered healthy. Okay, and we know good health increases the learning capacity of a worker. So, this much is for question number 5. Question number 6. What are the various activities undertaken in the primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector? Children, this is very important, and you will first write primary sector heading and you will write in this includes farming, mining, fishing, foresting, animal husbandry, etc. So, all the production basically comes under primary sector, like farming is also is a kind of production. Okay. Secondary sector, next heading you will put secondary sector. In this, construction, tailoring, working in industry, etc. are included. Is this clear? Third, tertiary sector. In this, banking, transportation, communication, financing, etc. will come. Is this clear? Question number 7. What is the difference between economic activity and non-economic activity? This is a important question. You will again make column. One column economic activities, second column you will write non-economic activities, and you will write under economic activity these contribute national income. Economic activities contribute to national income. Non-economic activities do not contribute to national income. This is first point. Second point, economic activity include activity done to earn money. Okay, like we know in Sakal's story, Sakal was working in the computer center and he was earning, and other side his mother was doing the household work. She wasn't going outside to work, so she was not contributing any money or she was not earning anything, but she was working for personal satisfaction. So, that will come under non-economic activity. So, second point you can write under economic activity, this is done to earn money, and second point for non-economic activity you can write this is done for personal satisfaction. Is it clear? Third point, economic activities increase the personal income as well as national income, whereas non-economic activities do not increase personal as well as national income. Is it clear? Now, one example you can write for both. For economic activity you can write example like if a woman is working as a chef in hotel, so she is doing economic activity because there she is getting salary. But if a woman is working at home and cooking for her family, then this is going to come under non-economic activity. Is it clear? Now, question number 8. Why are women employed in low paid work? You all know that in our country women are less literate than men, that's why they are paid less, and in our country women are thought as physically and emotionally weak, so they are paid less. They are, third point you can write, women they are generally they are less educated, they are considered backward. This is the reason they are given less money in salary. Next question, how will you explain the term unemployment? So, you can write this definition, this is given in book also. You can write like this: unemployment is said to exist when people who are willing to work at the existing wage rate cannot find job. Existing wage rate cannot find job. Question number 10. What is the difference between disguised unemployment and seasonal unemployment? This is very, very important question, children. So, for this you have to make a column, and in first column you will write disguised unemployment, second column you will write seasonal unemployment, and under disguised you will write, disguise का मतलब होता है छुपा हुआ, ठीक है. And I gave you the example that in a field 8 people are working, but there is a requirement of only 5. So out of those 8, 5 are really employed. The extra 3 people are doing disguised. They are having disguised unemployment. So you can write first point under disguise. It is hidden or concealed unemployment. For seasonal you can write it is visible unemployment, because you know farmer they work for only 6 months, when the seed are sown or the crop is harvested, at that time they are only working, rest of the time they are free. So that is called seasonal unemployment. It is usually seen in villages. Second point under disguised, they do not contribute to the productivity and their services are not needed. Under seasonal, second point you can write, services of such people are needed during peak season. Okay, as I told you, like when there is sowing of the seed taking place or harvesting of crop taking place, at that time their work is required. Now third point, disguised unemployment. Disguised unemployment is mainly found in agriculture in rural areas. Seasonal unemployment is found in agro-based industries, and it is found in both rural as well as urban areas. Is this clear? So let's move on to next question, that is question number 11. Why is educated unemployment a peculiar problem in India? You know, in our country lot of population is there, so that's why we see that educated people, they deserve to earn, but they are not getting proper employment because of high population. So there is a shortage of jobs, and that's why this is a peculiar problem of India, because we have too much of population. Okay, so I'll give you this answer. Question number 12. In which field do you think India can build the maximum employment opportunity? So you can write this answer. India can build maximum employment opportunity in tertiary sector. मैंने आपको बताया tertiary sector include banking, transportation, insurance, like that. Is this clear? So here we have more of job opportunities. So India can build maximum employment in tertiary sector. Question number 13. Can you suggest some measures in the education system to mitigate the problem of educated unemployment? You know, in our country we have educated unemployment, yes. So nowadays, you know, our government is trying to implement NEP, that is National Education Policy, in which vocational education will be included. You know, vocational education will help us to get job more frequently. So from our point of view, this type of unemployment can be improved. You can write some points. First, by opting vocational streams. Vocational means in which we can learn any skilled work, like if you are good in technical work, you can learn technical work. If you are good in any kind, if you are having interest in suppose learning the parlor course, you can do that. Like that you can be skilled and you can earn at very early age. Second point you can mention in this answer, that education should be planned and executed properly, so that future prospects might not be damaged. Third, theoretical knowledge is important, but technical education is also very, very important. Is this clear? Question number 14. Can you imagine some village which initially had no job opportunities but later came up with many? So, like taking the example of this chapter, we have read about the villages. So, you can imagine some villages where there were no job opportunities, but later on, like last story which we had read in this chapter just now. So, that story you can mention, and there you can give the example of agro engineer, where he, like from a family of a farmer, a person went for agro engineering, and when he came back, he put good techniques in the field, in agricultural field, and it was found that the farmers, they started earning better, and this is how they brought prosperity in their village. So, that story which we just discussed today, that you can mention here in question number 14. Last question, which capital would you consider the best? Land, labor, physical capital and human capital, and why? This is very important question, children. So, you can start writing this answer also. Question number 15. Like we can consider human capital as the best. Reason? We know that land is fixed and cannot be expanded. Is it true or not? Second thing, physical capital is also man-made. You see, it is depending on man's ability only. Third, physical capital is generated, managed and controlled by human capital only. Fourth, human capital can be developed to any extent. You know, human has brain, is not limited to any particular area. Human capital can be developed to any extent, and it is indispensable factor of production. So, this finishes our chapter. Children, you write these question answers in your copy, they are important, and some of the questions for which I said they are very important, like differences between disguised and seasonal unemployment, like that. So, those questions you revise properly. Thank you everyone.